Okay, so the last piece we're going to be looking at is actually making these items of loot change our character's attributes. So if, for example, you pick up a health potion, you might want the character's health to increase. If you pick up a sword, you might want the strength to increase. If you pick up a shield, you might want the defense to increase. And it's just an incentive to make you a little bit stronger with every kind of character that you defeat. So in order to do that, there's a couple of different ways we can do it. I'm going to do it as a separate function. So if we go down to where we've defined the loot function, I'm going to define another function called loot effect. And this will need to take with it the returned loot drop, because that loot drop is going to tell our function what random piece of loot has been generated. And then we can use that to actually apply different effects. So what I'm going to do now is I've only got 3 different pieces of loot, and I'm going to just create some if statements for each one. I'm going to say if the loot drop, so if the random piece of loot which has been dropped is the same as potion, and I need to make sure here, just like all the other times, that this is in speech marks and it looks exactly the same as this. If there's any differences between these two, it's going to throw up an error. So if it's all lowercase, make sure it's all lowercase. So if that is actually a potion, we're going to increase the character's health. So also in this, because I'm increasing the character's health, I need to put that in the brackets as well. So the character class needs to come in here as well, so we can actually affect the character's health. So the character.health will equal whatever is currently in there. So if the character health is currently 90, it's going to equal 90, and then we're going to add on 20 points to it. And then we can print, you drink the potion, increasing your health by 20. Your health is now, and then we're just going to print out the character.health. And then it's the same for all my other items. So elif the loot drop is equal to sword. And again, making sure it's spelled exactly the same. I'm going to this time change the character.strength. It's going to equal character.strength plus 2. So obviously you'll need to play around with these numbers to get the balance right as you go through, but by increasing it, obviously it's going to make it easier, so you may want to make your enemies a little bit harder as you go through the game. So I'm just going to finish this off, and we're going to come back in a minute and I'll show you how it all looks. So there we go. Now, there's the 3 items there. You might have noticed I've just added the return character on there. It's not 100% necessary, because Python will just change this in the class up the top as soon as you reference it. But it's always good to get into the habit of returning things that you're going to use in other parts of the game, because other languages will have you return these values, and you won't be able to just change them by location. You get 2 different methods of changing them. So for the time being, just make sure we return them as we go. So we now need to call our function, and this is going to be called whenever our enemy drops some loot. So here our enemy has dropped some loot. So if I scroll down to the battle state and I go, so in choice 1 here, the enemy will drop some loot for us after this if elif statement. So I want this to be below the you got a but above the break. So I need to make sure it goes here. And it's loot effect, and I take loot drop. Can we see here? It exists here, and the character effects there as well. Let's just run this to actually make sure that it works before we move any further. So I've only done it for the first option here, so the sword attack. So if I manage to defeat this enemy and they drop something. They didn't actually drop anything. So let's have a look and see what happened there. So after a little bit of tinkering about, I've realised my main issue with this. So I don't need to change too much at all really. The problem is that I've actually put this piece of code below these if, elif and else statements. And underneath each one of the ifs, there's this return. And what return actually does, which I forgot, is that not only is it going to return the score for us there, but it's going to act like a break as well, and it's going to take us out of that loop. So it means that once the score is returned, nothing will be executed underneath it. So there's a couple of different things we can do to test it. So first of all, I'm just going to comment out these three return scores so we can demonstrate that it does work without them. But obviously by doing this, my game's no longer going to keep score properly. So we'll look at how to actually fix that in a second. So let's have a look here. Okay, let's see if we can defeat this enemy. Okay, so here we go. So this actually worked this time. So we swing the sword. Their health is now 0. We've defeated it. Looks like it dropped something. You got a potion. You drink the potion, increasing your health by 20. Your health is now 69. So we can see here that when the troll took that swing there, we left us with 49 health. We drink the potion, which is worth 20, and we now got to 69 health there. And then we can carry on with this. But like I said, we're no longer returning the correct score. I don't think actually we're returning any score anymore. Yeah. So we're actually causing an issue here because the score's not being returned. So instead of returning it underneath each one of the if, elif and else statements, we're just going to return it once at the end. So once we've done our, and we shouldn't really need the break there either now, but we're going to leave it in just to carry on with the testing for a second. So I've actually done the if, elif and else statement. That score is here, and then this part of the code will run, and then once that's all done, then the score will be returned. So let's have a look and see if this is now going to work. Okay, so health is increased by 20, score of 5 has been returned, that's correct so far. Strength here, because we picked up the sword, strength's increased by 2, there you go, new strength of 12, and score of 15, so that's increased by 10, we know our goblins are worth 10 points, so that's all working by the looks of things now. See if we can get to it one more time. So here we go. The last one was the troll. They're worth 15 points. We can see here that our score has returned 30. So we were on 15, now we're on 30, and that's it, ready to go. So that is it really. That's the last piece of this to get it working. I'll leave an extension for how to do maybe a boss fight or something like that. But it's up to you now. If you want to add in more items, you can add those in the table up here, in the loot table, and then just update your loot effects here to see what each one does. If you want to give more options, you can give more options in the battle state here, just making sure that you're updating everything consistently as you go.